The surest way to corrupt a youth is to instruct him to hold in higher esteem those who think alike than those who think differently. The education system today, and it has been for the past, you could say maybe 100, 150 years, since really the Industrial Revolution really kicked off, was that, is killing creativity, and is killing the creativity of young men and women today. And it has been because, for many reasons, mostly because it's state-led, and it's in the desire of achieving the state's goals rather than anything else, which is modern-day slavery, which is, the employment system, the obedience rate. How obedient can you be to be employed? Because that is what really is the most valuable thing the state can develop when it comes to developing their power and developing their stability. Because, since the Industrial Revolution, really, it's been the case that, something that would change the state of the Western world, which was the Industrial Revolution, bringing about all of these changes to work, to technology, how that would influence people of the original decentralized world, which was, that you could be a farmer, that you could work for yourself, that you could grow your own vegetables and all of this. That was something that was the original decentralized world, not the new NFT decentralized kind of crypto world that we're kind of like looking at today. That was the original decentralized world, because people could look after themselves, supply things for themselves. But when the Industrial Revolution came in, the influence of that was to bring people into cities and bring people into a world where people would go into factories, have these machine-like jobs, as very much is the case still today, of course, where people have these jobs where, you're only going to be employed into these jobs if you can act like a slave, and if you can be obedient, and if you can follow the rules. And of course the education system, which is a system which isn't really to educate anybody or to teach anybody how, or to really give people the opportunity to learn anything, they of course also occupy the facilitation of individuals to make them into obedient slaves when it comes to not really learning anything, but more, of course, memorizing things. The education system is focused on rote memorization. You get examined on how well you can memorize things. And then, of course, everyone is examined on how well you can memorize things rather than create things, rather than to think of things in a new formal way. It's much more aimed towards a herd mentality of success when it comes to, if you can memorize this specific thing in this specific way, then you are suitable for to be employed in a certain type of job that would be in a city which is mostly you being obedient and bowing down to authority and following a system. Learning, or to learn, or to be able to critically think or find oneself and be an individual and follow what you are passionate about, has got nothing to do with memorizing information in a specific, discrete way. Of course, you have to learn that, of course, a method of, learning things is through memorization. You memorize things, but that's not really understanding anything. You don't really understand anything when you do that. This is why a machine is now replacing these jobs, of course, which you could say is potentially a good thing, because maybe, of course it's going to make a lot of people unemployed, but potentially it could offer up a lot of opportunities where people can then start doing things they're actually passionate about, which a machine cannot do. Because this is the thing, the difference between a machine and a human is that a machine's not going to be able to tell you why they do what they do, but a human is going to be able to tell you that. It's going to give you an explanation to why it's doing what it's doing, and of course the main reason to why someone's going to go to work and do this shitty job they don't enjoy is because, I need to get paid, blah blah blah, and all this type of stuff. But when it comes to meaning, when it comes to purpose, is also, of course, a reason why we do what we do when we're passionate about something. But the education system, of course, is aimed towards being taught how to be a machine. And being taught how to be a machine is not human, it's dehumanizing, it's demoralizing. And of course, this is something that fuels procrastination into our lives, because if we're going to be taught how to suffer being bored, which is what Nietzsche says, he says, you're fundamentally taught to suffer being bored, which is, enjoy being bored doing these boring things. You're basically taught how to enjoy doing boring things, boring tasks, sitting in a classroom, sitting at the desk at your corporate job, filing out files, doing all of this shit, doing these repetitive, mechanistic things which are boring. You're basically disciplined into doing that thing, being disciplined not to be of a success for yourself or of yourself, where we're talking about, bringing in discipline into your life to be a success of, going to the gym, doing these certain things, having a schedule, all this type of stuff. But it's more being disciplined to be a cuck, be this kind of individual who, always says yes to the boss, always does not what he feels what he wants to do, but does what someone else wants him to do. And that's what you are disciplined into doing. That's what the education disciplines you into doing. They punish the creative individual, they punish the person who stands up in class, or they punish the person that has got something unique to say. And of course that's why you get, young kids being very outrageous, like myself in school, who's like, not following the rules. But the reason why I wasn't following the rules was because, there wasn't a place for me to speak my mind, a place to speak my creativity forth, along with many other kids who go to school, and then how that conditions you into a certain pathway into your life, which can be very detrimental. So this is what you're fundamentally taught to do and taught to be, is to suffer being bored, be obedient to authority, no questioning of authority, taught to memorize, then to understand or understand anything that you learn, and make man into a machine, make him into a pod man, make him into something that has a certain rhythm to himself, not something where your spirit is coming forth into the passions that you enjoy and that you're authentic, but rather that you are a mechanistic man, a robot of some kind, which follows the state's rules. And how that's going to emanate further out into your life when you grow up, and then you get a job, and then you do all of this type of stuff. It all comes from this core conditioning, this psychological operation which is called school. Because, even though they say, it's education, we're educating you, we're teaching you all these great things, but at the end of the day, it's called school, because you have been schooled, you have been fooled by the state. And this is all for what? Corporate employment. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know, someone can look into the facts of this, but I'm pretty sure that education probably changed quite a bit when the Industrial Revolution came about, because they then had a corporate capital system created by the state, which was then taken on by many different countries when the revolution happened, when the technological revolution happened, that they put into place for societies, which would then stain the education system and change it. And of course this, which I really want to get into, is what leads into procrastination, because all of this conditioning, all of this kind of pushing down of the passions, be some sort of automaton of the state and being the teacher's pet, all of this, and doing what you're told and not really exploring yourself or discovering the things that you could be really interested in, this leads to procrastination. Because the education system today, it drains the authentic life that could be you from you. It drains it away, it takes it away, it makes everything stained. It disinterests you into what learning truly is about. You don't want to learn anything when you're in the education system. You're bored. You find these subjects boring. But the only reason why you find these things boring is because of the way they teach you, the way they have crafted the system. And of course you're going to have teachers here and there that are good, but they also are stuck in the system. They're also in the system that they are trying to break free from, and they're trying to inspire kids maybe, but it's going to be very difficult for them because they have to follow a format which cannot be changed because it's part of the mainstream state system. Unless they go their own way and try to be a bit more courageous and try to be self-employed and build their own education system. But at the end of the day, it's to enjoy servitude, to not follow your passions. And, you have to ask the question, what does this do to the culture? What does this do to the culture on a mass, global level? If everyone's going through this pain in the ass process of being conditioned to not really enjoy the process of learning, to not being taught how to critically think, to not being taught how to think for yourself, of course you're going to get a very obedient society that follows the rules and doesn't question much of what is going on, or doesn't care to question much. But you're also going to get a world that is, people in the long run are going to cope to enjoy living a boring life. Because if you're conditioned into a system where you have these certain jobs and you have these certain institutions and these corporations where you get your jobs more or less, you're gonna also you're gonna get depressed and you're gonna get miserable, and there's gonna have to be a place where you go, or activities that you're gonna have to go into doing that are gonna escape you from the boring life that society has created for you, or that the education system has instilled into you through the values in which it teaches to you that you haven't questioned. And this is going to lead to cope, to enjoy a boring life. But this procrastination, which is the cope that the individual goes towards to escape from the boring life that they have been conditioned into, with the values that they have been given from the education system, is consumerism. They're going to drop into the consumeristic world, which is again this kind of recycling process of lies and profiteering and marketing and all of this type of stuff, where it's like people just fall into the cope, or that the procrastination truly is consumerism. Because one, you could possibly say the individual wants to escape from the life that they have been conditioned into since from the education system upwards to being in the corporate job. So they want to escape it, but then at the same time they haven't been taught the tools of how to truly break it. They haven't been taught the tools of critical thinking to break the system that they're in, so that they can live their own decentralized life like they did before the Industrial Revolution. So it's like this cope is also like it's escapism. You're trying to escape, but the only way you can really escape is, again, to just be obedient to what the state sells to you. So the state sells these forms of consumerism, where it's, watching TV, Netflix, the entertainment industries that funnel these certain messages and perspectives and points of view, celebrities, fast food, eating junk that's not healthy for you, which isn't going to help you at all still to break out of this mindset or to even create your own new set of values that are going to help you break from the system. It's this continuous process of consumerism, which is at the same time breaking you down more and more. And it's a fascinating lie that people buy into, because as much as the individual who has fallen into this world, as most of us have, we all have, when they're still trying to look for a way out to escape, they simply again fall into the hands of the state when it comes to consumerism, because that's the thing that's given straight away. It's the thing that's right at the doorstep. All education begins with the exact opposite of what everyone praises so highly today as academic freedom. It begins in obedience, subordination, discipline, servitude. And just as great leaders need followers, so too must the led have a leader. A certain reciprocal predisposition prevails in the hierarchy of the spirit. Yes, a kind of pre-established harmony. The eternal hierarchy that all things naturally gravitate toward is just what the so-called culture now sitting on the throne of the present aims to overturn and destroy. This culture wants to bring leaders down to the level of its compulsory servitude, or kill them off altogether. It waylays foreordained followers, searching high and low for the one who is to lead them, while its intoxications deaden even their instinct to seek. If, though, wounded and battle-weary, the two sides destined for each other find a way to come together at last, the result is a deep, thrilling bliss that resounds like the strings of an eternal lyre. So fundamentally, people get stuck into this lifestyle, and because of the education system being pre-constructed to not make you into a free thinker or someone who has a good set of critical thinking skills where you can create your own world within your own community of people, people get stuck into this lifestyle because they're not taught how to think for themselves to begin with. And the fundamental fact of this is if you have never thought for yourself, you will never discover yourself. You will never discover your passions. And this is again why people fall into consumerism, is because, if you never thought for yourself, you've always been obedient into the education system, you followed the rules as they have been told to you, you have never thought for yourself. Therefore, if you've never thought for yourself, you've never discovered yourself, you've never activated or realized what it is that you could truly be passionate about, what it is that you could really be fulfilled by. And of course, a midlife crisis, as the stereotypical term is called, or the recurring theme is that someone hits a midlife crisis. Oh, I wonder why they hit the midlife crisis, because the whole life they've been following this system, they've been following this thing which has not been good for them, and they realize at the age of 35 or 40 that they've kind of fucked up, that they need to reanalyze or reapproach their own lives, because they see, or they even break the lie within themselves, and they have to try and transcend beyond it. So if you never have thought for yourself, you will never discover yourself, and you will never discover what it is that you could truly be imaginative for, that you could truly be creative for, which is what the education system was in there for the first place. It was to teach you critical thinking skills so that you could apply that to things of your own nature, so you could discover who you truly are, to know thyself, as they used to say in Greek philosophy from the mystery schools and all of this. This also links back into things like low standards. If we have low standards, if we're living in a crippling world, or if we're living in a world that's crumbling fundamentally, which we are, the Western world is crumbling apart, has been for a while, we're going to have low standards, again, because it goes back to the education system. We've been bred into the memorization process of how to be a robot, but we haven't been bred, or we haven't been initiated into the process of learning what it means to have value, or what it is that has value, or what brings value to society. If we're constantly going to take the position of being an obedient slave that is paid a certain wage for their obedience, all it's going to fuel is sticking to the man and doing what he says. We're not actually going to be able to critically think if that thing we are doing is good or bad, if it's valuable, if it's worthwhile to keep on doing. This is why, this is ultimately why we continuously do things that are not good for us, or because we don't critically think about these things. It's not something that's put into the culture that we live in. It's not something that is applied. And again, this links to procrastination. And of course, people are gonna, there's probably, as it is the case, there's a lot of creative people that are stuck in a rut, that don't want to live in a very low energy lifestyle where people, like could be yourself as well as watching this video, where you're surrounded by people of very low energy, low ambition when it comes to life, but you can see through it, you have seen through it, and you want to kind of like break the procrastination process that you yourself are in, because you're in a world that it isn't the way you want it to, isn't how you want to see the world. You don't look up to the culture that you're in. Then there's ways of going about this, because this is the problem, is that people are stuck in the procrastination world. We're constantly in a position of procrastination. So many things are fueling procrastination, consumerism, all of these things. And if we're brought up through a system of education where we are not inspired, we are not driven forth to chase our passions, then you yourself are going to fall into procrastination, because it's the easy way to dull the senses. It's an easy way to just remove yourself from how you may perceive the world in a very negative way, which is the case. A lot of people, been asking a lot of people who watch this channel, what is it that you struggle with? And people say, I'm just nihilistic because I'm just fed up. Like, I'm just sick of this lifestyle that people are continuing to live, and obviously there's this heightened sense of superiority that some of these individuals have that watch the channel and stuff, but there's ways of getting out of this. There's which is really to work on yourself first so that you can inspire others. And which is why I'm offering, like free consultation calls on procrastination. So if you're an individual who is feeling like this in a certain way, then, you can jump in a call with me. We can talk about this whole thing, because I'm going to be working more and more with people on the specific problem of procrastination and really rooting it out and finding the reasons why this happens and how you yourself can overcome this fundamental hurdle that's in your way. So if you want to reach out to me on that, there's a link in my description which you can book in a free consultation call with me, and we can go over the whole situation with why you feel like you're procrastinating, what is it, what are the fears that you feel like you need to try and reach out to and overcome, and we can get all into it and really make some progress with what you're trying to reach in your own life, so that you're not continuously surrounded by the, especially because it's even with myself, is that, I feel, and I'm pretty sure there's a reason why a lot of other people feel is this urge or this feeling that there is this energy that needs to come out, that needs to be expressed, that needs to be pushed forward into life to demand the best of people and to demand the best of yourself. So book a consultation in with me and we can get going with that, and it'll be very worthwhile. So make sure to book in a call with me on that, and I'll speak to you guys in the next episode.